Lawmakers about to reconcile the House and Senate tax bills, setting up a big victory for President Trump, while the Russia investigation is also heating up. So is the president's unpredictability a price the GOP will pay to push through one of their top legislative priorities? The Wall Street Journal's Jerry Seib writes, in the era of President Donald Trump, when up can be down and down can be up, it's no surprise that the Republicans' hour of great accomplishment also is their hour of great peril. That is precisely where things stand as a new week dawns upon a thoroughly changed political landscape. For more on this, let's bring in the author of those words. Jerry Seib is executive Washington editor at the Wall Street Journal. Where's the peril, Jerry? The Republicans seem to be on a roll right now in Washington.
Well, they are, but there's peril on two fronts as they roll down this path. The first one is that the tax cut, which has not been wildly popular, at least as far as opinion polls tell us so far, doesn't take off as the Christmas present that President Trump referred to it as earlier. But in fact, that middle Americans conclude, as Democrats are telling them, this benefits corporations and the rich a lot more than you. And, oh, by the way, it's going to blow up the budget deficit, which you really don't like and which scares you. That's risk number one. Risk number two is, of course, the Robert Mueller special counsel investigation. And at the same time, the tax bill was nearing the finish line last week, of course. Bob Mueller announces a plea deal with Michael Flynn, the former national security advisor, which indicated he's a cooperating witness essentially at this point. And that opens the door wider to the Trump inner circle. So at the hour of accomplishment, as I said, you also have peril just off to the side, but very much within vision for Republicans. So that's why it's not 100% glee at this point for them.
But the Republicans have struggled for almost a year now in the Trump presidency to notch a big legislative win, and tax reform looks like it's going to be it.
Oh, it is. I think they will get it done. I think they'll get it done before Christmas, and that will definitely happen. As I said, they still have some work to do, though, convincing the public that this is as good an accomplishment as they believe it is and will be. And, oh, by the way, there's a danger here. The economy is already humming along pretty well, nearly at full employment, pretty robust growth. There is the potential that a tax cut right now, in addition to ballooning the deficit, also stimulates the economy even further and essentially overheats it over the next couple of years. But in the short term, there's another peril out there, which is people have kind of forgotten. The government isn't funded anymore after this week. There needs to be a budget passed that funds the government for the rest of this fiscal year. There's a potential for a government shutdown. Now, Republicans are saying essentially Democrats are going to be to blame if that happens because they're trying to push into the budget resolution a fix for the dreamers, the undocumented aliens who came as young children, and that if this doesn't work, it's because Democrats have put an unrelated measure on the table. But open question, will this new image of Republicans as a party that can govern effectively because they got the tax bill done be tarnished by a government shutdown?
Yeah, but Democrats saw how bad the blowback was for Republicans the last couple of times there were government shutdowns. Would they be willing to bring one on and get the blame cast on their party?
You know, we'll see. We have had this game of chicken repeatedly over recent years about whether there will or won't be a government shutdown, and the political calculations in both parties have shifted over time and depending on the circumstances. The only way to answer your question is to say, I don't know, and I'm not sure even they know at this point. But in terms of risks for the Republicans, one of them that is out there is that a government shutdown takes the glow off of this tax cut victory a little bit. I don't think that's likely to happen, to be honest with you, but I think it's at least a possibility.
One thing that I found interesting in your column has to do with that special election in Alabama for the Senate seat vacated by Jeff Sessions and then Luther Strange. You say it would be bad if Roy Moore wins for Republicans, but it would also be bad if his opponent wins.
Well, what I said is specifically it'll be bad for Republicans if Roy Moore wins and comes to Washington and tries to become a disruptive force within the Republican Party, which is kind of what he has suggested, that, you know, the bad blood between Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader in the Senate, and Roy Moore is pretty obvious and pretty extensive. Can that be calmed down? Can he be essentially a team player? I think Republicans think it's important enough to have that 50-second vote, as John's report indicated earlier, that they're willing to run that risk. But there is the potential that he comes and basically disrupts the Republican caucus rather than becomes part of it. The other nightmare scenario, and clearly Republicans have concluded this is the worst one, is to have a Democrat win a Senate seat in the Deep South, which Democrats have not been able to do for a long time, and that would be a stunner.
Keeps things interesting there in Washington, D.C. for you.
Yeah,
Jerry Seib from the Wall Street Journal. Jerry, thank you.